But first, another week passes and Australians have yet again been given a front row seat to an embarrassing, ego-fueled spin attempt by our national broadcaster. The Christian Porter saga has come to an expensive and messy conclusion, but despite having to spend $780,000 of your money defending the broadcast of allegations that can never be proven, the ABC still sees it as a victory. The only way anyone at the ABC could be happy with this outcome is if they completely disregarded the cost of this mess to taxpayers. Yet here is ABC Managing Director David Anderson breaking down the cost of poor journalism to the taxpayer.
The total so far, both paid as well as accrued, is approximately $680,000, and that's before the payment of $100,000.
Right.
So
and
costs incurred would be about $780,000 to the ABC.
And how much could the ABC have ultimately spent, even had you been successful in defending the case?
A few assumptions there, Senator. If it was to be a 3-week trial, say, we think that could have been another $1 to $1.5 million, certainly cost to the ABC.
Soon after news of the settlement broke, the journalist responsible for publishing the allegations, Louise Milligan, claimed victory on Twitter. Christian Porter has discontinued his case. The ABC will pay him no damages. I stand by my journalism and proud to work at Four Corners. Grateful to the ABC and our brilliant legal team for supporting public interest journalism. Thanks everyone for your support. And the Twitterati ate it up. The tweets published in reply were filled with gushing praise of Milligan. And ABC Media Watch host Paul Barry also couldn't contain his glee at what he saw as an emphatic victory for the national broadcaster.
What's more, the original article which Porter complained about will remain online unchanged, with the addition only of an editor's note which says, in part,
"The ABC did not intend to suggest that Mr Porter had committed the criminal offences alleged."
That looks to me like a big ABC win.
And then this bizarre intro sentence from The Guardian suggesting that Porter should not be claiming victory because he didn't secure an apology or a retraction. Now, this is just an opinion piece dressed up as a news story, biased and arguably unfair. Christian Porter has dropped his defamation case against the ABC, but has sought to claim victory despite failing to secure an apology or retraction from the public broadcaster. Well, what really happened? For those who wanted to dig a little bit deeper into the ABC's complete statement, rather than simply republish the ABC's spin, they would find that the result was far more complicated. The ABC actually wrote a statement of regret, saying it regretted that people who read the article thought it was saying that Mr. Porter was guilty. The statement read, "The ABC did not intend to suggest that Porter had committed the criminal offences alleged. That reading, which was not intended by the ABC, is regretted." So the ABC published a story suggesting Porter was a rapist and then regretted the fact that people read it that way by mistake? And Louise Milligan still has the gall to suggest that her journalism was beyond reproach? The best the ABC can do is to say that what they wrote should not have been believed, particularly when Milligan's personal tweets took the story considerably further than what the ABC published on its platforms. Like this tweet, where Milligan used the hashtag Cabinet Minister, which had at the time already identified Porter, to question whether Porter was fit for office. To mansplainers, it's nigh on impossible to obtain conviction beyond reasonable doubt when the complainant hadn't made formal statement and died. Police can investigate for coroner. High Court commission its investigation. Government can too. Is hashtag Cabinet Minister suitable for high office? For the ABC to then say it did not intend for people to assume Porter's guilt after their journalist who broke the story was campaigning for his resignation on Twitter, it's quite frankly not believable. In my opinion, the settlement was a massive backdown for the ABC, and one that costs everyday Australians hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal bills. And still, the ABC celebrates Milligan as a hero. One statement from the national broadcaster even referred to her as brave. The ABC stands by Louise Milligan, one of Australia's foremost and most awarded investigative journalists, and all our journalists in their independent and brave reporting on matters about which Australians have a right to be informed. Well, if that reporting was brave, the word has lost all meaning. In another time, people would reserve the word brave to describe actions of Anzac soldiers, desperately trying to hold ground on a Turkish hill thousands of kilometres away from home. Instead, now, it is being used to describe the waste of $780,000 of taxpayer funds to defend a woman aggressively and carelessly publishing allegations of criminal nature, which they admit they had no way of confirming. And this goes to the heart of the problem with contemporary journalism and why I believe the public does have a right to be angry. The pursuit of storytelling has become less about an attempt to accurately frame reality and more of an exercise in taking down someone and then bathing in the fame that claiming a high-profile scalp delivers. You might think this approach to be noble or just or necessary, but in reality, it does destroy lives. And there increasingly seems to be protection rackets rising up to defend bad journalism. Sky News Australia asked the ABC how much money it spends defending cases each year, but the national broadcaster refused. Deafening silence. This is the real problem with the ABC. It is extremely opaque when it comes to how it uses taxpayer dollars to defend journalism that arguably should never have been published in the first place. It took a Senate hearing to extract the cost of the Porter debacle from the ABC, and there appears to be no accountability for how often taxpayer funds are wasted in this way. There was no need to rush to publish the Porter allegations, and in my opinion, Milligan should have had far more evidence before airing these allegations, particularly when she knew they were unprovable. Well, I'm joined by media writer at The Australian, Sophie Ellsworth, and Nick Cater from the Menzies Research Centre. Sophie, why don't we start with you? I know that you've covered this issue a little bit. What do you think of the approach that I guess the ABC has taken defending it? And do you see the settlement, the terms of the settlement, as a victory for the ABC?
Look, I think that it's a bit blurry of who the actual winner of this is, but there is one side that had to pay money, and that was the ABC paying costs to Porter's solicitors. So you can argue, till the cows come home, who won this case. There's muddied waters, but I think if you look at it that way, there was only one side that paid money, and it wasn't Christian Porter's side.
And they were also describing it as brave, and they weren't really taking the neutral approach that Sophie is taking there in their reporting of it. Yeah. I find that strange. If you've paid out $780,000 to then go and say that you stand by the journalism and it's brave.
And my understanding, Jack, it's worse than that. That's 780. Well, 680 was their external legal costs.
Sure,
they had
their
in-house legal costs, which would probably push their bill to well over $1 million at this stage.
Yep.
And let's not forget that that's taxpayer-funded defence against what Christian Porter had to do, which was to raise his own money. Christian Porter would now be out of pocket to hundreds of thousands of dollars, which he will never recoup from the tax office, from the taxpayer, simply for defending himself against an allegation that the ABC now admits they could not prove in court. I think this is a huge disgrace for the ABC. I don't think they've heard the last of this. I think there's a lot of material that came out of Discovery, for instance, which we still don't know about, which shows the ABC in a very bad light. And some of I think that they're claiming this as a victory. They should wait. This is a turning point.
And Nick,
this is really energizing.
What about the contempt as well for the public? When we ask a question, how much money do you spend? Taxpayer funds. Do you spend doing this every day over an annual period? They don't even respond to the email.
They don't, but they're a government-funded agency, and therefore they are subject to freedom of information, but always...
Trust me, I'll put one in.
I know.
I promise you that.
Yeah, they are like a law unto themselves, and I feel sorry for David Anderson, who's a managing director of an organisation he can seemingly not manage or direct.
I do as well. He does seem to be quite frustrated in these, particularly with the Twitter interactions. He just seems almost fed up, doesn't he?
Absolutely, Jack. And let's not forget, we did a story in The Australian showing how big their in-house legal team is. It's up to 28 in-house lawyers, and they were hiring. And their chief counsel, Connie Carnabucci, is actually looking to leave ABC at the moment. So they're getting bigger and bigger.
28 in-house lawyers.
28 in-house lawyers, and that's before you engage external lawyers. So it's pretty